Then this evening's topic is topic of forgiveness. Last night I gave you a book on forgiveness. Hopefully you had a chance to have a look at that. I wouldn't expect that you've read much of it, but you may have started to read a bit, get a little bit of insight into it. In my years as a Buddhist monk, I was a Buddhist monk in the Burmese tradition for about 8 years. And during that time, I received a teaching which I don't know was really from any scriptures, any of the written teachings of the Buddha. But it did come to me from a Buddhist teacher. It's a teaching of forgiveness. And it has 3 steps. And even when I read just these 3 steps, I already became quite curious. Because normally in the world, we're just taught to forgive others. It's a beautiful thing. If you can do that, wonderful. But I've found, especially by teaching forgiveness for quite a few years now, that people aren't really very good at it. They want to be good at it. They want to forgive others. They have a good intention to forgive others. But they're actually really unable to. And when I got this teaching years ago, it has 3 steps. The first step is to forgive yourself for harming others. The second step is to forgive yourself for harming yourself. And only then is the third step to forgive others for harming you. This seems completely upside down from what we've been taught in life. So even at first it seems a bit strange, a bit foreign, a bit unusual, and we may even have doubt about how is this going to work? Is this right? Because all my life I've been told, forgive others. And just about every religion says, forgive others. But that's all it says, really. But what this gave me was a technique. And I worked on the technique. And I kind of found what worked well for me. So I'm sharing it. The first part, to forgive yourself for harming someone else, sounds quite easy and simple, straightforward. However, when you do dare to be honest with yourself and look into your past, you will find that in many different ways you may have harmed other people. It's just natural. Even good people with good intentions sometimes inadvertently, unintentionally may cause suffering to somebody else. Even they themselves didn't cause the suffering, but something they said, even telling the truth sometimes to somebody, may be misunderstood and the person may be hurt. It's like when somebody comes along and says, got a new hairstyle and says, how do you like my new hairstyle? And you say, I don't like it. And they go, oh, they feel hurt. This person was not trying to hurt the other person, but the other person was hurt. So even inadvertently, accidentally, without intention sometimes, people may be hurt by us. And if you're a good person, you actually feel bad about that. You feel, oh, I shouldn't have been so straightforward. Perhaps I should have said this way or I should have said that way. So we feel guilty. We feel regret. sometimes remorse, we feel sorry. But then this example is for good people. But there's a lot of people who just don't care about other people. And they just mindlessly fumble and bumble and rumble through life and not caring about other people and causing all sorts of calamity, even to the people they love. In fact, most often it is the people that we love that we hurt the most. You take any TV drama, and I travel from this country to that country and have the misfortune sometimes of seeing their television programs, and their television programs are the same as the Australian television programs, which are the same as the American ones, and the Thai and the Czech and the whatever. And it's all about families fighting each other, arguing over money and the situation in the house and all these things, and getting, and people supposedly in love with each other, fighting with each other. Sometimes they want to kill each other. Sometimes they kill the other one, and, the other one kills that one. And this is in the name of love. Sounds like a horror movie to me, or a war movie. This is, normal family situation. Perhaps not your family. But even within our family unit sometimes, it's very easy to be misunderstood, especially when you're living with someone all the time. Even living here in a Buddhist monastery, there are misunderstandings, and just some people, you don't like their attitude, It's easy to get angry with them or tell them what to do or tell them off. Or they might do the same to you. This is human nature, and we're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all get upset at times. We say and do things that we don't understand the consequences of. And thus inadvertently we cause bad feelings to ourselves. We feel guilty later on about what we've done. So the way we practice this, the technique, the first part is forgiving yourself for harming others. And the beginning of that is to just ask yourself, and you can do it while I'm talking, who have I harmed? Very simple. Someone just pops up on the screen of your mind. It could be just 5 minutes ago, in the car or in the house or with somebody. Could even been a taxi driver, or some guy on the street comes asking you for your money or something, and you tell him to, take a hike, maybe not so pleasantly. So you say something harmful, you do something harmful. It could have been this morning, it could have been yesterday, it could have been last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But someone pops up in your mind when you ask this question, who did I harm? If it's somebody that you have a major problem with, probably best not to start with this person, because it's going to be very difficult to understand this situation. Take something simple. Somebody that you just had a small problem, a small misunderstanding with. This is the best way to start. Again, people want to try and solve their big problems first, which is good intention, but too difficult. Like everything, we start off slow. We start off with simple examples, simple steps, and then we can get better at it. As we get better at it, we'll tackle the big problems that we have. So don't, try to do your ex-husband or ex-wife or, your horrible mother-in-law or something. Don't go there just yet. Let's start with just some little misunderstanding. Maybe someone at work, or maybe just something with your brother or your partner or something. Something simple. Then the next thing you check is, How did I harm them? Was it by speech? Was it by action? Or was it by thought? Even thoughts can harm people. We may not think so, but thoughts can be harmful. And especially, thoughts lead to speech and actions. So if you're having a harmful thought, it can lead to harmful speech. And of course, it can lead to harmful action. So was it by speech, action, or thought that I harmed this person? So what we're doing here is we're being totally objective. We are being factual about the situation. What our tendency is to go into the story and to start rewinding the story. Oh, she said this and I did that and she shouldn't have done that. Next time I'm going to do this and, blah, blah, blah. I was right and she was wrong. Therefore, it was her fault. And you go back into the story and you start trying to intellectualize it and figure it out. You've already done that 1,000 times and it doesn't work. You're still going around in the same old story. You check for yourself how your mind is stuck in your old problems and you still don't get answers. This is a different technique. This is almost a meditation technique because we are using objective awareness. So be aware, don't go into the old story. Just ask yourself the facts. And those of you who are lucky enough to have my book, it's written right there in the book and you can go point by point. If you're not lucky enough to have my book, you can ask me. Maybe I'll give you one, if I got one. Or you can get one. It's also online too, so you can download it. Then, was it by speech, action, or thought? Actually, these three are three actions. They are three modes of karma. As a human being, every day of your life, you are doing these three things. You're speaking, you're acting, and you're thinking. That's what we do. If you want to basically sum up, what does a human do every day? They speak, they act, and they think. It's very general, but you're doing these three every day. Reflect on your day today, and you'll have to admit that's true. I've been speaking today, some of us all day. I've been acting, doing, and I've been thinking. That's the human existence. This is karma in the sense that all of these three are causes or actions and they all have results. So this is why we're calling it karma, because it is a cause and then there is an effect from what we do. All of our speech, actions and thoughts have results. You can't have a cause without an effect. Every cause has an effect. Every effect has a cause. If there's no cause, there's no effect. If there's a cause, there must if there's a cause, there must be an effect. If there's an effect, there must be a cause. This is a universal law. This is not a human law. It's not a Buddhist law. It's not a Hindu law. It's not a law made up by people. This is a universal, natural law, which is amazing. And we're all operating by it. We have no choice. You can't say, no, I'm not going to follow this law of karma. It doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't step out of it. You can't escape it. You have to live it because you're living in a human existence. And everything is operating. There are other aspects to karma. It's not the only part of karma. Karma actually means action. And then there's, in our terminology, there's vipaka. Kamma vipaka. Cause and effect. Action and result. must go together. So, check yourself. At that time when I hurt that person, was it speech, action, or thought? And then check, how was my mind at that time? Because it was a harmful situation, there was obviously something negative. You weren't just acting on love or, wisdom or something. There was something negative in your mind at that time. The three main negative mental states and most common mental states, again, in your daily life, all around you, in society, on television, in the newspapers, on the internet, is greed, hatred, and delusion. Lopa, dosa, moha. These are just the most common human mental states. We're almost always operating on them, whether you like it or not. When we meditate, we can purify this and operate without them. When we have love in our hearts, we don't have these. They're not present. When we have pure wisdom, pure awareness, good intentions, pure intentions, then these are not there. But usually, there's some greed or selfishness, some desire for a self-result. There's some anger, some ill will, some disliking, some resistance, some rejecting. And the third one is delusion, confusion, doubt, uncertainty. Greed, hatred, delusion. So when I hurt this person, what was in my mind? Was I greedy? Looking for something for myself? Was I angry? Or was I confused? Sometimes it was all three of these. Sometimes you're just confused and you're greedy and you're angry and you don't know what you're doing. So you hurt this person. You just blurt out and say something. Or you just did something. Or even, as I said, you think it. Even the thought itself can be quite violent, quite destructive. Can send out a negative energy, but it results in speech and actions. Greedy, angry, or confused. Again, not going into the story, only looking at the facts. And then you can ask yourself, was I wise at that time? I love this question. It's a very important question. Was I wise when I hurt that person? What do you think? What do you think? When you hurt someone, at the time you hurt someone, was that wisdom operating? I'll take that as a no. Thank you. That wasn't wisdom. That was ignorance. And ignorance is what causes the greed, hatred, and delusion. And that's what causes us to speak with the greed, hatred, and delusion. But speak, act, and think. And this is where the suffering comes from. It comes from ignorance. If we had wisdom at the time, we wouldn't have done it. Wisdom knows that this is going to come back to me. Wisdom knows that you're going to suffer from using the greed, hatred, and delusion in your speech, action, and thoughts. So it's not wisdom. I wasn't wise. In fact, I was foolish. You could even say I was stupid. No need to judge yourself or blame yourself, but at that time, I didn't know. The next question, was I aware? Was I acting with awareness at that time? No. I wasn't aware what I was doing. Even sometimes you might intentionally want to hurt someone. So it's a kind of awareness, but there's no wisdom present. There's no wise awareness. It's It might be awareness or an intention with anger, with greediness, with selfishness. So I wasn't aware and I wasn't wise. To me, this is the key point of forgiveness. Because now I can look back at that point and I can see I wasn't wise. Now I know that that wasn't wise. And now I know that I feel bad for what I did at that time. At that time, I didn't know I was going to feel bad. I just thought it was a good idea to blame that person or judge them or call them some bad name or put them down or harm them in some way, even physically beating the person, punishing them. At that time, it seemed like the right thing to do. Now I can see very clearly that wasn't the right way. How do I know? One, because I feel bad about it now. I feel sorry. And two, because I realize they're suffering. Sometimes even when you punish your children, physically punish your children, and they cry, and you think, this is a good thing, and you deserve that. Yes, you're crying, but it's good that you're crying because now you know you're not supposed to do that. So it all looks like a good thing. Until one day you go off and you come to the temple, and you sit down quietly, you want to meditate, starts off okay, and then all of a sudden, up pops in your mind the image of you belting your child, beating and punishing your child, and the child screaming. And now you're looking at it in a different light. You think, that was violence. I was supposed to love this little child, and sometimes they're very small, but we beat them and think that it's good, that it's right. This is good. Where does that come in? Where's the love? Okay, I love them, so I'll teach them a lesson, so I have to beat them. Kind of a little bit odd kind of love, I don't know. I understand that that's what we do as human beings. And it seems right. But like I'm saying, and this is the whole reason why I teach forgiveness, is because I went off and meditated. And I sat down in beautiful, quiet places, in monasteries, in forests, under the sunshine, in the breeze, at the beach. And up came this stuff where I harmed people. Even I remember I had a dog, a beautiful black dog, floppy ears, lovely dog. But whenever he did something wrong, I'd belt him, beat him, shout at him. Look at me now. Can't imagine me doing that, can you? But this is what I mean. At that time, I thought it was right. Basically, that's what society does. So, I had to teach the dog a lesson. But he'd turn around and do it again, so he didn't really learn the lesson. I don't know how to teach dogs properly, maybe there's another way and, be kind, gentle, show them the right way and reward them, etc., etc. At that time, I didn't know that. But when I look back, all I see was that I was full of anger and I hated the dog and I beat the dog and the dog was, like crying. Now I just see it as violence. And then I realized, wow, there's a lot of anger in me at that time. But, of course, as when we meditate, the potential for it is still there. And then we may reflect, at that time, was I wise? Was I aware? Would I do that now? Do I want to live my life like this? No. I want to have loving kindness, not only for myself as we practice here, but for everyone around us, and in fact for all beings in all directions. You ask yourself, am I sorry? And then you realize, I'm sorry. That's how I was. It's not how I am now. I'm changing. I'm improving. I'm learning. Wisdom is arising in me. So this is a beautiful thing. And you start to love yourself. You start to love this teaching. You start to love this way, the new you. The you that is transforming and changing. I'm sorry. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. You say these words to yourself in your mind. Repeat them over and over. Listen to the words. Absorb the meaning of these words deep in your heart. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. How does it feel? Do you enjoy this? Is there a lightness? Do you agree with this? Can you understand this? One step back. If for some reason you don't feel sorry, if you think, I'm not sorry, they deserved it, they did something wrong, I had to teach them a lesson, I'm not sorry, then forget this person. Go back to the beginning, start with somebody else. Maybe, like I said, someone simple, someone you just had a little misunderstanding with, and start with that person. Sometimes people get a little bit scared when they start to do forgiveness. You start to open up your mind, looking into your past, and you realize, man, I've got a whole queue of people lining up for forgiveness. That people that I've harmed in my life, starting with my family members. And then even some close friends. You know, sometimes you can have a really good friend and then all of a sudden something goes wrong and they almost become an enemy. It happens. You've all lost friends at some stage or another. Don't let that put you off. Stay in the present. Just go through this forgiveness practice one person at a time. If you can't feel sorry and you can't forgive yourself, put that person aside, put them back in the queue. Next. It's like a doctor's waiting room. Next. In comes the next patient. Remember me? Ah, yes, I remember you from 8th grade at school. Ah, now what was forget the story? What happened? Ah, yes, I spoke to you. I called you names because you got big ears, and I called you big ears. And I said you were ugly and fat and your mother was stupid. I remember you. And what else did I do? What was in my mind? I was greedy, but I was also confused. I wasn't angry. I just thought you were stupid. So I called you that. But actually, I did that to make me look better. And my other friends thought I was cool because I said, you got big ears and you're fat and your mother's stupid or something. That made me look good. This is ignorance. I didn't understand what I was doing. In fact, I haven't even thought about this person for the last 40 years. I forgot they even existed. But while I'm sitting here peacefully meditating, bing, up they pop in your mind. Huh? Where'd you come from? Huh? I remember you. I was bad to you. I hurt you. Who knows, they went off for the last 40 years thinking to themselves, I got big ears and I'm fat and my mother is stupid. And then they think, oh, I can't get a job, nobody loves me. Whose fault was that? Oh, well, it was probably my fault because I was blaming them, calling them that. You don't know what a kind of effect you have on people in their life, especially when they're young and impressionable. So, then you check, was I wise? Was I aware? No. Am I sorry now? Yeah. I don't want to be like that anymore. I'm changing, I'm transforming. That's how I was, not how I am and not how I will be. I forgive myself. I forgive my old self. I forgive myself for being like that at that time because I didn't understand. Now I understand. Now I see a good way, a right way, the best way. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. And if you feel that and it works, you start to feel, I don't want to spell it out for you, but you'll know when you've forgiven yourself. It's a nice feeling. It's a good feeling. You feel empowered. You feel like you really are changing your mind. Moving out of the darkness. Moving into light. Feeling fresh, energetic. And then, may he or she be free from suffering. May he or she be free from suffering. Little bit of compassion at the end, just to smooth it all over. I want to be free from suffering. I know they want to be free from suffering. Of course, if you can meet this person and go to them and say, look, I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't understand what was happening in my mind, I was ignorant, I was greedy, I was selfish, please forgive me. If you can see them face to face and clear this up, do it today. Do it tonight, if you can. If not, do it tomorrow. If you can't meet them, send them an email. Find them on Facebook. Message them. Text them. Call them. Skype them. Whatever you can do. Or if they're not traceable and you don't know where they are, or if they've passed away, come to a place like this. Go to a temple, or a church, or a mosque, or wherever you go, it doesn't matter. Go to a beautiful place. Go to the beach. Go to the forest. And send it to the universe. You could say something like, Dear so-and-so, in many ways I caused you harm and suffering. I realized that I was ignorant. I was greedy, angry, confused. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And just send it out to the universe. Especially in the case of someone who's passed away. It's too late to talk to them. But we are spiritual beings, and wherever they are, they're a spiritual being also. So we can send it. Send it to them through the universe. Through the, what did I call it? The spirit net. The spiritual internet. You know, it's kind of amazing these days with the internet. It's like you can connect with people all over the world. Yeah. But the spiritual internet is even faster, even more direct. In fact, it's flawless. If you know who you want to connect with, you can connect. It's up to you. We do this in metta as well. You know, if your mum's not well, or, you know, you want to send your loving kindness to someone, there's no harm in just picturing them in your mind, and with a pure intention, may they be safe, peaceful and healthy, just like me. See what happens. We do it when we share merits as well. I've done something good today. I've done a meritorious deed. Then I share the merits with this person, or even a departed relative or something. Same way. So this is the first step of forgiveness, and you do this again and again and again and again and again until you've gone through the queue of all these people that are lining up waiting for you, for your forgiveness. See what happens. It's an experiment. Life's an experiment. Meditation's an experiment. An experiment means something that you've never experienced before. So you're testing, you're checking. If I do this, what will happen? That's an experiment. So if I try forgiveness, what will be the result? If I do this meditation, what will happen? Actually, every day is an experiment. Every breath is an experiment. Every thought. So, the second part of forgiveness. To forgive yourself for harming yourself. Last night we did a little quick appreciation game where we just shouted out one word of something that we appreciate. Tonight, I want you to just shout out one way that we harm ourselves. Can you help me out here? Just shout out, anyone, anytime, in a big voice, how do we harm ourselves? It doesn't have to be you, but just generally. Stupid. Regret. Anger. Come on. Fear. Jealousy. Ignorance. Craziness. Greed. Conceit. Madness. Which in Buddhist terminology would probably call it delusion or something like that. Confusion. Yeah. Lust. Sure, gets us into big trouble, doesn't it? Self-centeredness, absolutely. Yeah. Which kind of means a little bit selfish, only doing things for oneself. Yep. Shout it out. Blaming, yep, self-blame. Procrastination, thank you. That's an excellent example. Yeah, procrastination. How else do we harm ourselves? Complaining. Over expectation. Yep. Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Perfectionism. Denial. Beautiful. Keep going. You could probably stay here for another hour. They'll just keep coming. It's unbelievable the number of ways that we harm ourselves. Just now I was talking about harming other people. But actually what happened when we harmed other people, in the process, we harmed ourselves. But we didn't know it. Like I said, we thought it was a good thing. But then later on, usually this process happens when you get older and so-called wiser. Sometimes it only happens when you're on your deathbed. You're in the process of dying and you start reflecting on your life and you go, look at all the trouble I caused. Look at all the problems. Look at all the people that I harmed in my life. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And you're about to die and you don't have time to go back and say sorry to everybody and ask for forgiveness. It's too late, friend. That's why I wrote the book, so that people can clear this up now. I consider myself to be still young. And I'm so happy that at least to a large extent I can say I've cleared my mind of all these old past things. Who knows, something else might pop up, I don't know. But I go to visit my mum in the nursing home, and there I meet with these old people, and they're all suffering. They've not been taught about forgiveness. They thought forgiveness was about other people. They didn't realize that it's about self-forgiveness. Honestly, the only true forgiveness can only come out of your own heart. Forgiveness is a personal experience, a mental state. You can't wait around for it to come from other people. And you can't wait till you meet that person and ask them for forgiveness, or wait for them to forgive you. So we've caused our own suffering. Now the question is, and I want you to ask yourself, how do I harm myself? Make your own little list of how you harm yourself. Not generally how people in the world harm themselves. This is coming back home. And if you want, you can write it down. Make your own little list and reflect on that list. Contemplate that list. Read that list. Wake up to how your mind really works. Just as we said words here, write your own words down. What this takes is extreme self-honesty. But what this does is it opens up your mind. And that's why I said the other night, probably last night, that some people don't need to meditate. They need to practice forgiveness. If they practice forgiveness first, already they've opened up their mind. And to some extent they clear their past. Then they're ready to see the truth. Then they're ready to concentrate the mind. But before that, they're trying to meditate, but like I said, all this old stuff comes bubbling up, and they don't want it. And they try to push it away and say, no, I don't want to think about that. I don't want the old stuff from the past. I don't want these old emotions. I don't want these memories. It doesn't work. You can try and push them aside and suppress them as much as you like. No, you're just going to keep coming back up. And they'll keep coming until you understand them. Then we need to do forgiveness. So, how did I harm myself? Let something come up. Let's just take a simple answer. Maybe impatience. We all get impatient at times, and we know, yes, it seems that we're impatient with somebody else or with something else. Maybe the bus or the aeroplane or the traffic or another person. Actually, the impatience is in yourself. This is you causing suffering to yourself because you don't understand what's really happening. You don't understand the aeroplane. You don't understand the traffic. You don't understand the boss. You don't understand your work. If you understood it, there wouldn't be any impatience and there wouldn't be any suffering. Because you don't understand it, then you're blaming it, and so you cause impatience and suffering to yourself. After a while, this becomes very clear. That your suffering is not caused by the boss, or by your parents, or by the children, or by the bad guys in the neighborhood, or America. Your suffering, or your government, is not caused by anything outside. It's triggered by that, but your internal suffering is your suffering. All that happens is you see something and then bang, up comes your impatience, is the example I'm offering. You hear something Like, we're trying to meditate here and people are talking outside and you think, well, why are they talking out there? They should go somewhere else and talk. We're trying to meditate in here. What's this? You're impatient with these people out here. But these people, it's nothing to do with those people. Doesn't matter. It's your impatience coming up inside you. It could have been any other thing happening. Oh, you feel pain in your body. Oh, why am I getting pain in my body? I'm trying to meditate. This shouldn't happen. This is your own impatience with things that are actually beyond your control. So, when we can understand this, so firstly we can identify, how do I harm myself? Again, don't go into the story. You don't have to start saying, I'm impatient because of the boss. I'm impatient because of... It's nothing to do with that. Get out of the story. Accept the responsibility for yourself. I'm impatient. All right. When I'm impatient, am I greedy, angry, or confused? Sometimes confused. Sometimes angry when I'm impatient. Sometimes I'm selfish. I'm greedy. I want things to happen when I want them to happen. So, impatient. Then, you select one of these or you say, well, it's all three of these. You could have said it first. Was it speech, action, or thought? Usually it's just thought within yourself, but sometimes you speak with impatience to yourself. Maybe act with impatience to yourself. Sometimes you even hurt yourself. Sometimes you speak to yourself in your mind and blame yourself. Oh, you're so stupid. You keep doing this same mistake, and blaming yourself because of impatience. So, speech, action, or thought. Greedy, angry, or confused. And then, at the time, whenever I'm impatient, am I wise? Pretty simple answer there. It's not wisdom. Wise people are not impatient. Am I wise? No. Am I aware that I'm being impatient with myself? No. Sometimes you might be aware of it. Usually, you're not aware. So what you realize is that ignorance is operating in your mind at that time. You're not aware, you're not wise. For me, what I realize is, this is human nature. Everybody's the same. So if I'm going to blame myself, then I have to blame everybody, because everybody's doing this. Or, if I can forgive myself, I can forgive everybody, because everyone's the same. It's normal for a human mind to become impatient. Now the question is, do I want to continue this for the rest of my life? No. Does this make me happy? No. Is it necessary? No. This is the arising of wisdom. When wisdom is in the mind, it doesn't cling or attach to anything. Then it releases, can let go. And what happens is we wake up and we say, that's how I was. Not how I am, and not how I want to be, or not how I will be. I am changing. I'm developing. This is a beautiful realization. I am not who I used to be. I am not what I used to be. The wisdom is arising. And this helps you to rejoice. You feel good. You feel like you're really transforming. So, am I sorry? Yes, I'm sorry. I forgive myself. I forgive my old self. I forgive myself for being impatient to myself because I didn't know. One, I didn't know that I was even being impatient to myself. Two, I didn't know that I was harming myself. Three, I didn't know that I could forgive myself, and I didn't know that I could transform myself. It's so beautiful. I forgive myself. Feel it. Listen to these words. Contemplate their meaning. I forgive myself. May I be free from suffering. Send a little bit of compassion to your own heart. May I be free from suffering. That's what you want, isn't it? It's what everyone wants. In fact, all beings in all directions want to be free from suffering. Then, repeat the process. Again, ask yourself, how do I harm myself? Something else comes up. Anger, sadness, maybe stress. Nobody said stress just now. People think stress comes from outside. Oh, the boss gives me stress, work gives me stress, the children gives me stress, the traffic gives me stress. Stress doesn't come from outside. It never did come from outside. It comes from inside, strangely enough. Because you can have two people working side by side in the same job for the same hours, with the same pay, with the same boss, under the same conditions, everything exactly the same. One's stressed, one's not stressed. What's going on? One's complaining, judging, criticizing, they're impatient, they're fed up with this job, and the other one's just doing the job. Tick tock, do the job, no problem, doesn't matter, finish work, go home, everything's alright. The other one's saying, I hate this, I hate the boss, I hate the job. Where's the stress coming from? It's very clear. It's not coming from the job. Otherwise the guy next to you would be in the same situation. This is your own stuff coming up. This person obviously has their own problems, conditioning from their past, and they bring it to work with them. They even take it to the temple with them. They take it to meditate with themselves. That also happens when you go off to meditate. Strange, but you think, you go to meditation retreat, it's going to be all, peace, love, dove, and, kind of dancing through the flowers or something. And you realize, you sit quietly, all this stuff starts coming out. And all of a sudden, you hate this place. You hate the teachers, you hate the flowers, you hate the food. It's not in the place. Look at the guy sitting next to you. He's not angry. You're angry. Where'd that come from? Phew. From your conditioning. And this is not to blame yourself. You don't then turn this on yourself and go, oh, look at you. You're such an angry person. You've always been angry. What are you doing? Same cycle, same suffering. You're just creating more suffering for yourself. This is where awareness comes in. First, we have to see, how do I harm myself? Secondly, we have to see, how do I do it? Speech, action, thought. Then, am I greedy, angry, or confused when I'm harming myself? When I'm angry or when I'm stressed? And then, am I aware when I'm stressed? Usually not. Am I wise when I'm stressed? No. Wisdom is absent when I'm stressed. And then, am I sorry to myself? Hopefully, you can feel sorry for yourself. And then you can say, I forgive myself. Because at that time I didn't understand. Now I know better. I don't want to be angry or stressed for the rest of my life. I was stressed in the past. I'm not stressed at the moment. Now I understand it. And I don't want to be stressed in the future. You start to let it go. Wisdom releases this naturally. This is not what I want. Stress doesn't help me. It doesn't serve me. Then you release it. Then you may say, I forgive myself. I forgive myself. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from suffering. Contemplate that. Do you really want that? Do you really want to be free from suffering? Honestly? If you want to be free from suffering, then you have to realize first that it starts in here. The suffering is coming from in here. If you want to be free from suffering, you have to see the cause and the roots of suffering. You have to be aware of the suffering in yourself. You have to understand that it doesn't work, it's not useful, it's not helpful, it's not what you really want. Then you'll let it go. When you let it go, you'll feel more peace, and then you'll understand more clearly that really is the cause of suffering. Ah, so nice. So then, second step of forgiveness, we repeat again and again. And then comes the third step. Now the third step is not really the third step. In fact, the third step doesn't actually really exist. If you practice the first step very well, very deeply, very intensively, for a long time, as long as it takes for you to really clear your mind from everything that you feel that you've done to others and forgiven yourself, then you move into the second step naturally. And you've forgiven yourself to a large extent, hopefully completely, for all the suffering that you've caused yourself. The realization that you will come to is that anybody in this world who has harmed you is exactly the same as you. They also are greedy, angry, and confused. They are not wise, they're not aware, and they are also suffering. And they're probably sorry that they harmed you. If they're not sorry now, they'll be sorry later on, because that's karma. It's going to come around. If you harm someone, your own consciousness, your own mind knows that you've done something wrong. And at some point, it will bubble back up in your existence. Maybe when you go to a quiet place to meditate. Maybe when you're sick in bed and you've got nothing to do and you've got a lot of time to contemplate your past. Or maybe when you're going to die. Or who knows? Maybe you just take it all with you to your next life. And in your next life, all this stuff comes up. Not you'll remember people or places, but the karma is there. The results will be arising. That's why in this life sometimes things happen to us, but we can't see, it's like we can't see the cause. Something happens out of the blue, some trauma, some accident, some harmful thing, and you think, hey, I'm a good person. I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I getting this? And this is where people blame God. They say, oh God, why are you picking on me? I've been a good person. I said my prayers. I went to church. Why are you picking on me? Why are you punishing me? To me, this is karma. There is a cause, you just don't see it. The cause could be in a previous life, but you may not know. You don't have to believe this. It doesn't matter. But sometimes you will yourself experience something and you'll wonder, where does this come from? Why is this happening to me? Nearly everyone who has an accident or gets sick, the first thing they ask themselves, why me? And some people make extreme suffering for themselves, not only because they just got a disease or cancer or something, but they make it extremely worse by constantly asking, why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? Why didn't it happen to my brother or why, how come that guy's so happy and walking around and enjoying his life and I have to be here in this hospital bed suffering? Why is this happening to me? Asking questions like this, getting angry, is not going to help you. There is a cause. You may not know the cause, you may not see the cause, but there's a cause. Because you can't have a cause without There can't be an effect without a cause. For every effect there is a cause. Sometimes when you calm down, relax, even you check yourself, sometimes you can, in the silence, you can feel or know what is the cause. Or even in the silence you realize, I don't need to know the cause. All I need to know is that this is arising here and now. Come back to the present moment. Okay, the disease is like this. This is the reality. I have this disease. To accept it. You could even love it. Sometimes a disease is just a wake-up call. You were going ding-di-di-di-di-di along in your life and everything was beautiful, but you weren't contemplating life. So the universe has just given you a slap across the face and said, stop, look, see what is really happening in your life. Sometimes that's what a disease is. It's really a wake-up call. And then you have to ask, what am I doing? Where am I going? What's happening? Am I using love? Am I using forgiveness? What's the nature of life? What's the truth? Who am I? What am I? Why am I here? Then you start to discover karma, cause and effect. You start to discover forgiveness. You can forgive your body for being the way it is. Nobody's got a perfect body. So what the point here is that the third step of forgiveness, after having practiced the first two steps very, very well and to a large extent, you realize actually everyone is already forgiven. Why? Because if they harmed you, they did it for exactly the same reasons that you harmed someone else. You were greedy, angry, confused. You weren't wise, you were foolish. Ignorance was present. Wisdom was absent. When you harm someone else, you caused yourself suffering. You know that clearly now. When that person harmed me, they were actually harming themselves. Contemplate that. Next time you're thinking about someone who harmed you, just reflect on the fact, actually they harmed themselves, but they don't know. They thought they were harming me only, but actually they're harming themselves. In this way, compassion arises. Just as we have compassion for the person that we harmed, we have compassion for ourselves, then we start to have compassion for those who harmed us. This is a complete transformation. Instead of being angry or sad or resentful to those who harmed us, we actually start to have compassion for them. So don't try to forgive others. It's very funny sometimes. I can give a talk like this. I can explain the 3 steps of forgiveness. And at the end, if I ask, any questions or something, they say, yes, Jeff, it was a very nice talk. I believe in forgiveness. But how can I forgive my husband for, And I'm like, sorry, did you miss something? The first step is forgive yourself for harming others. The third step is the third step because it follows the second one and the first one. And even the second one follows the first one. So start with the first one. When you've done the first one very well, then you'll get to the second one. When you've done the first and second very well, you won't need to do the third one, because by forgiving yourself honestly, sincerely and deeply, in fact, you forgive all beings in all directions simultaneously. You're including your ex-husband or your mother-in-law or whoever it was, someone who killed somebody that you love. You can experience this degree of loving, of forgiveness. It is possible. But it takes time. Start with the first step. Work on it. It might take 6 months or a year. I worked on it for a long time. And then I moved to the second step, quite naturally. And then I worked on that. And then I came to the realization that I didn't have to do the third step. It was so cool. I just realized there's no one to forgive. Yeah, people harmed me in my life. People have been rude to me as much as I've been rude to them. But I understand they do it because they don't understand what they're doing. Just like myself. And I've already forgiven myself, so I forgive them. Becomes actually too easy. But in the beginning, it takes time. Takes some effort. You have to be patient with yourself. Yeah. Any questions about forgiveness?
And then you seek forgiveness from the person who you have harmed, but the other person refuse to forgive you. Then what do we do?
Beautiful question. Thank you. What happens if you have harmed somebody and then you ask for forgiveness from them? You may meet them even face to face and they refuse to forgive you. What are you going to do? This is actually a beautiful but difficult part of forgiveness. The most important thing is that you've completed forgiveness for yourself first. Self-forgiveness and true forgiveness is not dependent upon another person. So even though you've worked on yourself and you understand that at that time I was foolish, etc., and you go to the person with an open and sincere heart and you say, look, I've been foolish, at that time I hurt you, please forgive me. And then they say, no way, you're a dirty, rotten scoundrel and I hate you, get out. Then there's nothing you can do to change their mind. That is their suffering and they are still in that mode of anger and even, actually they hate themselves. They're angry with themselves. It seems to be projected to you, but it's not really. What it is them angry with themselves. They still hate themselves. They still have not forgiven themselves. They've not done the practice that you've done. The point here is that when you forgive yourself, you understand forgiveness. But if someone comes to you out of the blue, you don't know anything about forgiveness. Somebody comes out of the blue who harmed you some time ago, and they come along and say, oh, I'm sorry for harming you. And you're like, man, this is 20 years of hatred I've got towards you, and you think you can walk up here one day and go, oh, sorry about that, never mind. You feel like slapping the person or, killing them or something. So, we need to be a little bit sensitive in this area when we're asking for forgiveness. Perhaps make contact first and just say, can we meet one day? Can we chat? Is it all right? Do you mind if I see you? Not just walking straight up and unexpected. Break the ice a little bit and even being gentle as you talk about it. Oh, look, years ago, I know we had some problems and actually I've been working on myself and I realized that, in those days I was really quite foolish. I was pretty stupid and silly. I wasn't thinking about other people. And I know I actually harmed you in many different ways. And I feel really sorry about that. So, you kind of slowly introduce it. Don't just walk up. But then, even though you put it in a really lovely manner, over a nice cup of tea, they may not still forgive you. But this is not your business. You don't have to convince them to forgive you. And it's not about transforming their mind. Forgiveness is about transforming your own mind. And forgiveness is not dependent upon somebody else. Thank you. It's a good question. Yes? Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, if there's in this case, there's a tribe or a race of people that are domineering and controlling and overpowering perhaps another race or tribe of people. Okay, huge tribe. Race. I said race. Yeah. A type of people, a race of people. Yeah, doesn't matter, 1 million, 10 million. They're trying to overpower, even you mentioned dominate the world. They are bullying another race of people. And this is happening all over the world, isn't it? It's not just in Asia or anywhere. There are many, many experiences of this throughout human history. The question is, how do we apply forgiveness to this? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that the forgiveness that I've given you here tonight is about self-forgiveness. So it's an individual practice. It's something that you yourself can realize within yourself. So how do we apply it to, 1 million people or 2 million people, whatever? You would have to educate them. You would have to inform them. You would have to encourage them or show them. Their leaders would have to adopt this. Or the opposite race, the ones that are being bullied or overpowered, etc. Now, there's 3 modes of response, I can say. Especially in Buddhism, these are 3 terms that we can use, but they're human reactions. We could be passive, we can be assertive, or we can be aggressive. Now, again, these are happening all day in your life. These are 3 modes of reaction that your human mind is working with all day long. Sometimes we're passive to things, sometimes we're assertive, we stand our ground, and sometimes we're aggressive. And we can see that passive is sometimes harmful. If you're too passive, then you let everybody walk over top of you. And this seems not to be the best way under many circumstances. Some people, however, they preach to be passive and to be peaceful, but it's not necessarily the best answer. On the other hand, we've got aggression, which means you walk over everybody else. You push everybody else around. You try to make them the way that you want them to be. Now, this also obviously is very harmful and it doesn't make people happy. However, assertiveness is to remain firm, to be centered, to know your rights, and even to speak up and to say, this is not right, this is not the way. And to be able to talk and discuss. I know this is very difficult in a situation where somebody's bombarding you or attacking you or invading you. But thankfully, in this world, we do have things such as the United Nations. We do have big brothers in the world, and it needs to take negotiation. And as I've said, if you can understand forgiveness in your own heart as a personal experience, you can naturally forgive others, even in the case where people have harmed you, your family, your society, and even your entire race. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is possible, especially with the right information, especially with the right education, and certainly a lot of honesty, a lot of patience, and in particular, wisdom. And this needs to come from the leaders. The leaders need to understand in this way. Then they can help their people to act in the right way. Not to be too passive, not to be too aggressive, but to be assertive. Yeah. I hope that helps. Yeah. Anybody else? Speak up. How does the karma? Okay, well I have already given a very basic introduction to karma. As I said also, there are many different aspects to karma. In fact, karma is one subject that the Buddha said that it will actually boggle your brains if you just, keep thinking about it. So, however, there are some basic fundamentals. I've already mentioned just basic cause and effect, etc. Is there something in particular you would like to know? Yep. Yep. Yeah. Sometimes, so karma is not just black and white. So if a dog comes up and bites you, then you would, if it was black and white karma, then in an immediate cause and effect situation, how would I say it? I was a dog in my last life, or something like this. And it's not exactly, if somebody steals your money today, it's because you stole someone else's money before. It's not as black and white as that. In our simplicity and the way it's taught, often we would like to understand it like that. And it generally works like that. But karma is also, dependent upon situations, and it's even fuzzy. There are a lot of grey areas, and even to some extent, when you have practiced to a large extent, then even though an effect may happen in this life, for example, you did something to hurt somebody in a past life. In this life, you're feeling hurt. You've been hurt by somebody. You realize this is just an effect from the past life. Normally, without awareness, you would cry, you would blame, you would blame the other person and misunderstand it. But with awareness, you could say, I understand that this is some past karma coming to me now, the result of something that I've done before. And we also see the pain as pain. We see the mental suffering as suffering. And actually, we're not suffering so much. What we're able to do is reduce the suffering that we experience. If we don't have awareness, we don't have wisdom, then the suffering will be very much more harmful to us. So we can't delete old karma because the causes are already in place, so the effects will come up. What the effects will be, we cannot know. They are not exactly, money for money, car for car, or hit for hit, or eye for eye. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So if a guy does something harmful to you, then obviously that's his bad karma as well. You're receiving something bad, so you could say it's bad karma. He's also creating bad karma for himself because he's doing something wrong. But one of your initial questions was, what if he didn't do that bad thing to me? Then, yeah, it will come in another form. And that's what I was saying, that it's not black and white, it's grey. It can come in any form, and you don't know when it will come. That's the other thing. There's no time limit for karma to arise, or the results of karma to arise. It arises due to conditions. When the conditions are right, then the effect will arise. And these conditions we can never know. And it could be something happens to you now, but you can't see the cause. So actually it's not traceable. And you can't say, this is happening now because of that incident in that life. Some people can apparently see this. Some people say that they can tell you that this karma is related to that karma, and to undo this karma you go and release some fish, buy some fish in the market and go and set them free and everything will be alright again. And does it work? I don't know. But certainly by doing good deeds and by maintaining your sila, your precepts, keeping a wholesome discipline within yourself, is abstaining from doing any harm in the world. So this is a way of not making more bad karma. And the other thing is, as I said, if you have awareness and wisdom, whatever misdeed or suffering that comes to you, if you have awareness of it, it will be reduced. It won't be as strong as if you didn't have awareness and wisdom. It's a tricky subject. I may not have answered your question correctly, but I hope I shed some light on it for you. Yeah. Please find a good book from an amazing teacher. Well, okay. So he's read many books on the subject and he hasn't found a good answer for it yet. So that makes me feel better that I wasn't able to answer it satisfactorily as well. In my mind, I'm okay with that. But to explain it or to know exactly where the root of your question is coming from, this also is a communication thing, and maybe if we sat down for half an hour or an hour, we could maybe find some mutual understanding and etc. But in this limited space of time with different people asking questions, has to be like that. Right. So what our friend is saying is that if you, that he doesn't agree that we should be completely non-violent, that sometimes a good old-fashioned slap and scaring a child is a good caution for them to learn something, because they wouldn't be able to understand our explanation of it. However, I do believe that there are different ways to explain things. We do think that children don't understand, when in fact they are can be sometimes even more clear and more intelligent than us. It just depends on how we explain things to them and whether we are actually patient enough to go through the situation with the child and really explain it. These days, people don't have time. They're not going to sit down and take 20 minutes to explain step by step, look son, if you do it like this and do it like that, it's going to be like this. They don't have time. Whack! And then it's all over. Don't do that again. You understand? Good. All right, finished. Easy, fast, efficient, and violent. Modern. Actually, it's not modern, it's ancient. But it is, we don't have time. Yep. So our friend is saying that rather than slapping or scolding, etc., but to invite or call the child in front and to let the child explain what did you do wrong, and let them explain in their own words. In this way, it's a kind of a punishment themselves, but it's also making it clear in their mind, what did I really do wrong? And so in this way they can learn. And if possible or necessary, we can explain a little bit more to them. But sometimes that's punishment enough. My friend used to, the way he would punish his child is he would say, do we have to have a talk? Do you want me to talk to you? And the boy would go, no, I don't want to talk. Because, yeah. Yeah, sure. That's right. Yep, communication. It's one of the great problem solvers on the planet, everywhere. If there's a problem, talk about it. Open it up. And even this is where forgiveness comes in as well. The ability to explain and to say, look, I'm sorry, be humble, admit your fault, and be open to learn from the other person, see how they suffered, see what happened with them, even listen, even someone who may have harmed you, then to be able to listen to their story. Why did they harm you? How did they feel about it? What did they go through? This is all learning for yourself as well. So it's definitely about openness, about open communication, being honest with yourself, being able to speak and listen to others. Such an important point, not only in forgiveness, but actually in life, everywhere. And this is something that we're really not good at, is communication. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Did you say matchment? Oh, measurement. A measurement. If we could measure this forgiveness, and how effective would it be? Obviously, we're just speculating. You can't measure such things. In fact, it came up last night, didn't it? Somebody said, can you measure the loving kindness? And somebody said, you can measure what happens in the brain during meditation. But you can't measure loving kindness. It's actually a feeling within yourself. So the forgiveness is also not a measurement as such. I send it out. I offer it to people. Very, very, very few people come back and say, thanks, Jeff, that was good. It worked. I had a good experience with that, etc. So there's no real way to measure it. And there was a word that you said is to something or other, bad karma. Yeah, you can't eradicate or delete or cancel past karma. And as I've explained, all you can do is realize the effects of it, be aware of it, have wisdom with it, and what happens is this reduces the suffering that arises from it. But you can't stop a past cause from manifesting in this life or in a future life, unfortunately. Once the cause is there, the effect will take place. All we can do is realize what the effect is and see how it harms us or how it affects us, and we may be able to at least reduce the suffering that arises.
For example, now, if I dig out my memory, right, and then if I want to find, okay, I have done so many wrong things for other people, and sometimes I may not find the limit of it, and then finally I will end up with the depression or that kind of thing if I cannot find. And then how can I overcome that kind of sin?
As I said in the beginning, sometimes when we start forgiveness practice, we may realize that there are so many people that we've harmed in our life, and Bhante said that we may feel depressed about it, etc. Well, firstly, what you can do is keep going with the forgiveness. Come back to the present moment, deal with it one person by one person. There's no point at looking at the rest of the queue and saying, oh my God, oh my Buddha, look at all these people that I have to practice forgiveness with. It's going to take me the rest of my life to forgive all these people. But actually, it's like any queue. You know, if somebody's working at the ticket office, you know, selling tickets to the latest concert, and there's, 500 people in the queue, and there's only one ticket person, and you look at the queue and go, oh no, how can I sell? That you've only got one choice. One by one by one by one. It's all you can do. Or if you've got any journey, if you want to walk to Kelantan or somewhere, how are you going to get there? If you look and go, oh, it's 175 kilometers, I could never do that. There's no point thinking about it. If that's what you're going to do, it's one, this step, this step, this step. So forgiveness is the same. You just do one person at a time. One person at a time. There's no point in looking and saying, oh, I've got so many people, I can't do it. The other thing is that what I've found about doing is forgiveness is that when we do it quite well and we're patient with it and we persevere with it, we start to find some patterns, some habits in the mind that actually by this pattern, this mental habit, I hurt many people. So if I can forgive myself for having this habit, and I'm able to remove this habit from the mind, I've already forgiven myself for harming all those people. So this actually wipes out big chunks. It's like, you've got a big queue of people there, and then you all of a sudden, the next window opens next to you, and half the queue just moves over to that window. I don't have to worry about doing all these people. So this also is part of the forgiveness practice. By realizing how you have habits and patterns in the mind, you can forgive yourself for that, and then it blows away big chunks of your forgiveness practice. It speeds it up. It accelerates it. And like many things in life, the better you are at it, the quicker it moves as well. In the first beginning, it seems very slow, and you're doing one by one, and seems like so much suffering. But then you get good at it, until eventually, even in your daily life, if you've cleared your forgiveness up to the present moment, and then even today, if I say something wrong and there's a little misunderstanding, instead, in the past, what I would have done, I'd have walked away And then I would have gone to bed that night and I wouldn't sleep, and I'd be thinking, oh, why did she say that? She misunderstood me. I should have said something at the time. And you can't sleep, and you feel worried, and then you think, oh, tomorrow shall I have to see her again? Will I say something or not? With this awareness and with this forgiveness practice, as soon as there's a misunderstanding, you clear it up. You just say, just a minute, I think, did you misunderstand me? Because I was trying to be nice to you, but you thought I was being rude. I wasn't being rude. Please forgive me. And she goes, oh, okay, no problem. Now I can walk away. I can sleep tonight. I can have a beautiful night's sleep. So the forgiveness practice also needs to come up to speed in the present moment and be able to be practiced on a daily basis. It's not just something that you do in the temple, or you do it, when you're trying to meditate, or, once a week or something like this. It starts to become a lifestyle. You actually start to bring it into your everyday conversation. And even your friends around you start to pick up on your forgiveness terminology. Even they might do some little thing and you say, I forgive you. Oh, and they think, that's nice. And then they sometimes will start to say it back to you, or you hear them saying it to somebody else, and it starts to spread out. Your forgiveness is not just within yourself and just your own personal practice, but the people around you start to understand it. The more you talk about it, the more you speak and act with forgiveness, the more it spreads throughout your friends and family, your community. Anybody else?
Will this lead to live a passive life, more passive kind of life? That means not active. And in that sense, for example, now in the institute when we work, we find different kind of people, right? If I am not reacting to certain kind of activities that not proper, not good, then they will continue that bad or incorrect action over and over again. With good intention, I have to do something, I have to say something, right? Even though I think that that person may get the wrong idea about that, I have to correct him. In that sense, I tell something for him, please correct this. The mode of telling this may be not correct, or I don't know how he understands, but I have to tell him, this is not the good way doing. You are continuing the wrong thing. He may understand it, right? He may misunderstand it. And then I have nothing to do with that. That means I can forgive myself, but I have to say it. In that sense, how can I say, okay, I have forgiven him, or what?
Again, that's why I talked about being passive, assertive, and aggressive. You could be aggressive and make the problem worse. You could be passive and don't say anything and let them go on with their bad behavior, which doesn't help anything, because especially if it keeps affecting you, then you need to be assertive. Assertive with forgiveness, with loving kindness, with compassion, with understanding, with patience, and be able, even you have to think about this first. And then, after thinking about it, what is the best way to approach this person? How can I explain this to somebody? Or at least just open up and start to begin by saying, there's something bothering me. Do you think we can talk about this? Do you mind if we talk? So being open-minded and approaching somebody that you have a difficulty with, or you see that their behavior is causing suffering. So being assertive. Not being passive and letting it go, not being aggressive and trying to control it or fix it, but being assertive and saying, look, there's a problem here, I think we need to discuss it. Or even identifying, if you're not the person to discuss about this, or they're not going to listen to you, you're not the authority on this subject, then you need to call in a third person to come in and say, and talk in between you and mediate between you. Even if it's like something between a husband and wife, sometimes it's better to bring in a counselor that can then mediate between the two people. Even between a boss and a subordinate, or even in the monastery, between a higher monk and a lower monk. If the lower monk is really dissatisfied and disappointed with the higher monk's order or their conduct or something, then they can bring in another monk to mediate between them and this way is being assertive. So you're not aggressive and attacking the person. You're not being passive and just letting them walk all over you or continue with their bad behavior, but you're bringing in someone else who can actually deal with the situation perhaps better than you yourself can. So don't forget this. You're not alone in life. You can also call in other people that are more skilled and have more expertise in explaining things and doing things for you to help you. Yeah. There are many services in this world, not only the government services, but also private services. There are counselors and, psychologists, psychiatrists and welfare workers, and even the monks can also help people to work out their problems. So you're not alone. And you have your Kalyana Mitta, your spiritual friends as well. They're the best friends to have. So I think it's enough for this evening. Thank you very much again for your patience and your participation. And then we've practiced the Dhamma tonight. And we've practiced and we've listened together, we've discussed together. So let's call sadhu together 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.